This is a little bonus episode
Oh.
for the patrons of the podcast. Um, you and I have a shared experience of a show we did also in Pittsburgh at a banquet hall north of Pittsburgh. And
Yes.
we didn't really know what we were getting into until we got there.
Yeah, I mean it was a show Matt Light booked,
Right.
and Matt is a hustler. Like
Yeah.
he knows how to find his ways to get some shows and make some good money and get an audience out there. Sometimes in this case, uh, not illegally, but
Right.
definitely a shady crowd came.
Definitely a shady crowd came. So I feel like this is like an episode of This Is Us, where like we're telling the same story from two perspectives. Uh, so I remember getting booked on this to MC, and I was very excited because I was like, this is like a half hour from my house. It's probably just a fun banquet hall show. My friends are on it. We're gonna get dinner. I was like, this sounds amazing.
The food was good.
The food was good. It was Italian restaurant. So the show was it was a banquet hall Italian restaurant that was connected to like a hotel off of the highway.
Like, and I don't even know where. Like, it was like was it near Aspinwall, or am I losing it?
Yeah, it was like up 28.
Yeah, it was like kind of like near like out like towards Etna, but
Yeah,
there was no reason that you would ever have to stay in that hotel unless
right.
you were running from something, because it was like buy nothing.
It was literally just off of the highway, standing alone essentially, was this restaurant, banquet hall, hotel. And we showed up, and there was another comic there who we don't have to name, but I was surprised to see him. I hadn't seen him in, I think at the time I'd been doing comedy 5 years. I had saw him once, I think, in that 5 year span.
I used to see him too much, but
Yeah. And
he was, well, don't get me wrong, guy's a nice guy. I think you know, he he had a go of it, man. He got in a little, like, I think he had like a pretty good job, good life, and then got involved in some things he shouldn't have been,
right.
cocaine, and kind of went a little nuts, and then started doing comedy because why not?
Why not?
And and he kind of took on a persona of like uh Sebastian Maniscalco impression.
Yeah, like this overly Italian character. Like, hey, what's the matter, you? And it's like, we're in
Hey, I'm gonna
Pittsburgh.
stab you in the face if you talk to my buddy Joey Baggs like that again. Like, come on, dude.
Hey, man,
Is it real?
relax. So we get to the show, and we really like. I remember there was a guy that was kind of running the show. He was selling 50-50 tickets, like scratch offs to the crowd before the show.
He looked like if Bob Barker was in a gangster film.
Yeah. And I remember like kind of recognizing him from like other shows in Pittsburgh. And
Yeah.
I was like, man, that guy looks familiar. I don't know how I know him or where I've seen him before. And he had like just like a one name, like it was
I
just like,
forget his name. Yeah, something. It was like Frankie or something. Like, it was
yeah,
just
it was
something
just like, hey,
other
that's
than-
Frankie. And I actually do remember his name.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Rocky. Or Rocco.
It was Rocco.
Rocco. So we're like in the green room. We're eating, and by green room I mean a conference room of the hotel.
I feel like we shouldn't have said his name because we're gonna get whacked.
I know. So we're in this thing and we're eating like really good food with this like stuffed shells and chicken and salad and bread, and they're feeding us. And like we're like this other comic is there, and he's like, yeah, I'm a friend of the guy that owns the place. I'm gonna do a couple minutes.
Well, that's what we're saying. The guy that we're talking about, the guy that did the mafioso thing on stage is Matt booked the show, but Matt didn't book him.
Right.
he got like kind of pushed onto the show because who Matt booked it through, this R-word character, we're not going to say his name again,
Right.
he was boys with.
They were friends, and we had yet to put together the connection of everything. So I remember, and then you could tell your side because I was emceeing. So I went out to see what announcements they needed made, what time the show was going to start, and this guy is running around. He's yelling at people to buy more tickets. He's like, "You're gonna buy some tickets? You're not gonna F with me, right? You're gonna buy some tickets." And then he opens his jacket up, and he had a handgun. He had a pistol in like a shoulder sling, and he shows it to people. He's like, "If there's any trouble, I'm gonna come looking for you." And like everyone laughs, like, "Oh, that's classic him." And I'm just like, "Do you need me to make any announcements? Or are we gonna dim the lights?" Like I have all these dumb questions. He's running around with a gun, and he's like, "We're gonna do the show in a few minutes. I'm trying to push these tickets." I'm like, "All right, man." So I'm like going back to the green room, getting the order down, and now it's time for me to go on stage. And the guy he goes up there, this guy, and he's like, "Thanks everybody for coming with, keep buying tickets. I'm going to be around selling tickets during the show. All right, you guys ready for some comedy? Connor's going to do some comedy. Come on up here, Connor." And it was me. My name is Collin.
For some reason, when somebody so confidently calls somebody the wrong name, it might be the funniest thing in the world to me.
It was he said it. It wasn't like keep it going for him or give him a hand. It was like, "Connor's going to come up and do some comedy. What do you think, Connor?"
He said it in a way where like you really had to like think like, okay, maybe I'm just Connor now.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm going to have to change my jokes on the fly. Because what am I going to do? Like, insult this guy?
Like go up there, "Hey, it's Collin, you pussy. Now why don't you set that gun down and fight me like a man?"
So I go on stage, and it is so bad. This guy is walking around selling tickets during the show. He's selling these like 50-50 tickets. He's yelling at people to buy them. He's like, "Don't be cheap. Don't be cheap. I'm selling tickets." And I'm like, "Who's talking?" And it's him. And so I can't do crowd work on him. So like I'm bombing so hard. And I start like doing crowd work to the tables around me. I'm like, "So what do you do for a living, sir?" And he's like, "I'm in sanitation." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "What do you do?" So he's like, "I'm a welder." And I'm like, "Wow, what is it, like a trade school convention or something?" Like, it's so funny. Everybody has these blue collar jobs.
Because you were too scared to say what it really is. So
Right, yeah.
You guys all just run numbers then?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really make the connection of what was going on and who we were essentially performing for.
I made the connection when I walked in and that guy kissed me on both of my cheeks. "How you doing, kid? Sicilian?" I'm like, "No." "All right."
Yeah, he's like, "All right, you're going to be just fine." So now I have to bring up, I was supposed to do 15 minutes, and you're in the back, and because I'm now supposed to bring up this next comedian, this guy, we'll just call him T.
Tony.
Okay, yeah, Tony. So I'm supposed to bring Tony up, and
Not his real name.
Right, not his real name. So I go to Tony. I go, "Hey, all right, we got a special guest coming out here. Keep it going for Tony blank." Nothing. He's not there. And you're in the back. You're doing the whole stretch thing. You're like, "He's not here." Like, I'm looking at you. I'm like, "Oh my God." Not only do I have no more material left to do. Like, I have done what I think the best I could do for these people. And so I'm just going back into crowd work. And this guy comes busting through these double doors. Tony comes busting through these double doors, comes on stage, takes the microphone out of my hand, and just starts his set. And he has like a stack of notebooks under his arm. and he just goes into this like Italian character crowd work thing. And so I come off and I'm talking to you because you're next. Now, at this point, you are also experiencing the show and seeing what's going on. So maybe you tell your side.
So it was just this like the front tables were paying attention. They were into it during your set.
Yeah.
It was the back tables that were so busy trying to buy raffle tickets. They were like, getting like settled in, and I don't know where Tony was. Like, he just disappeared, and or whatever his name is, and
I have an idea.
You're up there, and I was just like, fuck. I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm asking Matt, and Matt's like snapping. He's like, I don't know where the fuck this guy is. These fucking people are getting on my nerves. I got to go yell at this asshole and tell him to stop selling raffle tickets. So then Matt's outside in the lobby, like, arguing with the dude. And the guy's like, like, he's like, you can't sell raffle tickets while a comic's on stage. He's like, well, we got to make more money at this thing. And Matt's like, we tried. We sold tickets. We did what we could. I mean, you can't, And, then the other guy was on stage, and he did weird. And the weirdest thing is my aunt lives in that area. Like, my most wholesome of aunts came to that show, my Aunt Debbie. And she enjoyed it. But she even liked Connor. She thought Connor was good. That was so funny.
I don't know why he had all these jokes about his name being Collin, but Connor was really funny.
Yeah, Connor got a weird style. And then I went up, and I had an okay set because I had to shut these ladies down in the back because they were so loud and obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I just started making fun of them so hard, and it kind of got the audience on my side because that's what I was noticing during your set is there was that disconnect between the audiences. It was people that cared and wanted to watch it, and then the people that were like, and because they were also pissed off because the other people in the back were interrupting because they were like to have their own party. So I get off stage, and this we haven't even gotten to the craziest part,
right? But I think we should say at this point, did you realize who this guy was?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize until I came off stage while you were on stage and I was talking to Matt that the guy that we had been booked to do a show for was a cocaine dealer.
Yeah.
And I'm now I'm going back in my mind thinking, well, when I was doing crowd work and everybody worked in sanitation, that was weird. Oh, that's because they didn't work in sanitation.
Well, I knew because I'm talking to him. I was like, when I was talking to Matt when I got there, I was like, there's some sketchy characters. And Matt was like, oh, yeah, this dude's into all kinds of shit. But he got money, so we'll keep doing shows for him.
Right. And then you start to put the connection together of, like, why Tony is there. And you're like, oh, these guys' friends. And then you're like, oh, that's why they're friends. They're all criminals.
Yeah. Right. It really felt like that. It was just such a weird. It was you get a vibe in a room, and like that's one of those ones I think I did well, or at least I feel like I did well, is because I watched what transpired before me. And it's what we said earlier in the previous podcast we did, is my expectations could not have been fucking lower. Right. So it was just that idea where like I'm playing with nothing to lose, Yeah. That may be my life because the guy had a gun.
The guy had a gun. I remember him pulling open his coat and brandishing his gun like it was no problem. And I was just like, oh no. Like,
well, I didn't know about the gun thing until probably months later when we were talking about this.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking I think something's not totally right here. It doesn't.
You're like, but I did get a meal and I'm making $48. So
yeah, the comic in me is justifying it though. He's like, I don't know. I mean, it's not the worst gig.
Don Rickles used to perform for the mob,
Yeah. Okay.
Just like Rickles.
When you were on stage, you had the line. You got to the point where you just said, I think you were so fed up that you couldn't even do like funny crowd work where you just said to those ladies, you go, hey, I realize that you don't care or you want to talk, but people paid money to be here and you're ruining the show for them. And like that got like a huge
Because that's what I said. I said I remember it was something like because I remember I called them chatty bitches.
yeah, right.
I was like, and you chatty bitches are ruining the show for all these people that paid money, and everybody like I was like saying that I was like, man, that could go one of two ways.
Right.
And everybody else was like, yeah, fuck these broads, you know. They start
yeah, but it easily could have gone like, hey, don't talk about my wife like that. And then, right, this is a whole different podcast.
It'll be from heaven.
Yeah, right.
But the craziest thing is Matt gets up there, and if anybody listening to this or watching this or whatever knows Matt Light, knows that he can get aggressive with his crowd work, and he's just doing it because he's pissed. He's pissed about how the show went, you know. He's pissed that they were doing a raffle during the entire host set, that you didn't get an introduction, that the Tony guy went way over his time, I think, right? Or did he go way over?
We're supposed to do 5 minutes.
Okay. So he did a lot, and then I went up there, and then, you know, by the time Matt got up there, it was pretty late. So Matt brings up something that, like, begins a story that he has cancer. And Matt's mom and her boyfriend are there too. So Matt brings up he has cancer, and a drunk lady in the crowd that was at the table of chatty bitches stands up and goes, okay, I can't fucking do this. Like, that's messed up. And Matt's like, what? You know, and I'm not defending Matt in the sense that he can't be offensive to an audience member, because that's, right. You know, he could go at people and roast people. But this, he was like, I'm just saying a story that I had cancer. He's like, am I allowed to talk about that?
Right.
And then the chick's like, no, you can't make fun of that shit, blah, blah, blah. Matt's like, it's mine. And she said something. And Matt's mom gets up and she's like, fuck you, bitch. And runs over, grips this chick up by her hair, and throws her through the double doors outside. So it's this little area where they store coats, where it's like a double door, the little area where they store coats, and then another double door that leads to the lobby.
Right.
So Matt's mom goes out in there, and I'm standing there like not breaking it up and just watching it. I'm like, I ain't touching shit, you know? And and Matt's mom is just pulling this chick's hair and punching her in the head, you know, like just beating her ass. Matt's still on stage doing material, like talking. He's like, and then he's like, Ray. I'm like, what? And everybody's kind of quiet. Not everybody got up to go. There's like only like 4 people around the commotion. Everybody's still like kind of trying to watch the show.
Right.
And Matt's like, Ray. And I'm like, what's up, buddy? And this fight is just happening right in front of me. He's like, is my mom fighting that lady? And I'm like, yeah, man. He was like, is she winning? and then fucking the lady like starts yelling that she's gonna press charges, and Matt's mom's boyfriend at the time broke it up, and then Matt's mom's, maybe it's like his stepsister or something, is trying to break them up, and they finally get the 2 ladies separated, and then Matt's stepsister just slams the chick again. Yeah. And the ladies out in the lobby like, I'm pressing charges. And then they're like, this comedy show, we got to put an end to it. And then Matt's like, I'm almost done. Matt does like 20 more minutes after the show. And he's like, if anybody heckles me, my mom's going to beat him up. And then his mom like got like rushed out of there just because the cops came. Right. It was just a mess.
It was the most violent show I have ever been a part of. And it was also the only time where, like, when you go into a show, you kind of realize what you're getting into. And it wasn't until I had come off stage that I realized what was going on.
Yeah, I kind of knew, because I I met that dude one other time, and it was at the guy that booked Matt there, and it was at a strip club
Yeah.
after one of Matt's shows, and he was one of those guys that like promises the world and talks like he's gonna change your life at every moment,
Right.
and it's just like, you automatically know like this dude can't be trusted.
And he's talking like 30 words a second. He's just like one of those, and we're gonna do this and this and this and this and this. Like, man, this guy's got a lot of energy. It's like, I wonder how he gets this.
Oh, looks like his nose is dry.
Yeah, he's always blowing his nose. It's so weird. Yeah, man, that was the craziest thing. I remember getting in my car. I think I got paid like $50. I got in my car and I was like, man, I got to get out of here. Like, I have to get out of this parking lot and just back on the highway. And I was looking in my rearview mirror, like, are people, going to come after me?
I stayed.
I know.
I stayed the whole time because my family was there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to them after, but I didn't get to because they rushed everybody out.
Well, yeah, it's also a thing, like, if the cops came and all those guys were there, like...
True.
Yeah.
But the dude that we're talking about, that booked the thing, went out and, like, smooth talked the cops, and they left, like, right away.
Yeah. Yeah,
it
was...
it's a little misunderstanding.
Hey, fellas.
Do you want a raffle ticket?
God, that was one of the the worst shows, craziest scenarios. I mean, not only did we do a show for a Coke dealer and I would assume his customers and friends, but a fight broke out, and not just any fight, a fight between one of the comedians' moms.
Between the headliner's mom beating up a heckler for her son.
Yeah, she kind of stuck up to the mob in some way.
Well, it's like a crazy, but it was like it was like a white trash fairy tale for our friend Matt.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. Do you have? Would you do the show again? Would you do a show in that room again if you could?
I feel like I got some good laughs, so yeah, probably. Got some good laughs, got a good meal, got to see a fight. Kidding me?
Yeah, it's a good story. It's so funny because, like, when you're in the situation, you're just like, are we going to get out of here, like, alive? And then after, you're like, I don't know. It's not the worst gig.
I think I love and the sad thing is that's not even, like, top 30 worst gigs I've ever done.
Right. It was just the situation that we were in was so insane.
Crazy.
It was crazy.
Well, and it's funny, like, you think about like comedians always joke around about like their rider, or like actual comics have a rider where like, hey, I need fresh fruit in my room. I need, a new pair of Jordans every weekend I do. But like when you think about like starting out, like what you need for luxury is like, hey, I need a microphone that works. I need people to say my name is Collin instead of Connor.
Right.
I need you to make sure people aren't fist fighting. Like
it's like just 3 things.
Yeah.
Like the bare essentials, and we couldn't even get that.
It's like saying my name right, a sound system that works, and the audience is able to see my face.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was it. Oh man, that was crazy. Well, I'm sure, you're right. It's not even the worst show that we had done together.
No, not even close.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for doing this little extra episode.
Yeah, man.
If there's any lessons to be had in all this, is this just, ask for more money. Always ask for more money.
And keep hitting the mics.
Yeah, keep hitting the mics. Check Ray out. Ray be killing him on Instagram and Twitter, and check him out on Facebook. And I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, man.